Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello all, welcome to the second lecture where we will be discussing about the changing approaches to universal design. Now, in the first lecture I have told you about that what is necessary for inclusive planning and design, that why is it required, why do we need to do it, and also try to give you a brief idea about that what are the broad categories of disabilities and what are the various barriers to inclusion. We had all discussed that wherever there is a mismatch between the expected situation and the reality, the real situation, that is whenever there is a faulty interaction between the user and the environment, there is some kind of stress and that is a barrier. So, now here I would like to stress upon the word environment, that what do you mean by environment? Now, by environment we will go a little broad. It includes built infrastructure, which are services as well as an operation are included there, not only the physical spaces, they are absolutely there. Second will be the outdoor environment, that is maybe the streets, the plazas, the footpaths, the open bus stops, the open markets, parks, playgrounds, everything. C, that is the transportation. Now this would include both the transport terminals, including railway stations, airport, bus depots, bus stops, metro stations and all, and also the vehicles, that is the buses, the railway coaches, the aircrafts, even the cabs, everything. And fourth one, that is the information and technology, that means website. Say someone who is sensory impairment, that is with who maybe cannot see, wants to book a train ticket. So, the website needs to be accessible, or someone who cannot hear is trying to avail some telemedicine advice. So, therefore, so that system also needs to be, that communication system needs to be accessible. So, now let us see some real life examples, so that we can identify, we can understand which are these various barriers to accessibility. Now, see, now these are some barriers in the built infrastructure. You can have an accessible shop, you can have an accessible facility like maybe a post office, you can have a ATM where maybe the ramp is there, but it is broken, so you cannot take the wheelchair there. Some the accessible accessible restaurant. So, all these. Now these, as you can see, all these facilities are accessed by steps, which are not possible to be negotiated by someone who is on a wheelchair, or even someone, or even an elderly person cannot get into cannot enter these, because there are no proper railings and all. So, this is the these are the barriers to accessibility in built infrastructure. It continues, like maybe there is a lift, say elevator is there, but if you can see, that is the door of the elevator is the collapsible type. So, someone sitting on a wheelchair cannot apply that amount of force, so that he or she can open the collapsible door of the wheelchair. You have the toilets where again access by steps. You have the urinals which are at a height which are okay for a standing person, but not okay for a person who is on a wheelchair. Even if someone is standing there with crutches, then that you require some grab bars to hold. The wash basin is at a height which is again not accessible. So, these are the again we are continuing with the built infrastructure. Now, in the outdoor environment, so you can have a public toilet which is not accessible. You can have a marketplace where maybe there is no kind of tactile guidelines for someone who is blind to pass through. You can have the pavements where there are level differences. The bowlers, I think bowlers we talked in the first lecture also, that is where there is inadequate gap between the bowlers. so that you cannot take the wheelchair through. So these are certain barriers in the outdoor environment. Now in the transport terminal, so now in the first lecture we have talked about the different codes of disabilities, if you remember. So the first picture, this talks about a railway station which is marked as an accessible entry, and where there is a ramp. There is a ramp with proper guideline, proper handrail and a good slope, but that is not accessible, though it is marked accessible, but it is not accessible for a person who is blind, because there is no tactile guideline. So therefore, I mean, we are not considering not making it universal actually. I mean, you have the facilities within the transport terminal. You have the notice board which does not have a braille signage. You have the food zone which is not again accessible. You have the toilet within the rail which are not accessible public toilet. You have the inaccessible coaches. Also, there are the unsafe road crossings and the bus stops. Then the third category, that is information and communication. We design signage, proper signage we design, but many a times we forget making provision for people who have vision impaired. We might have proper directional signage, but also we need to complement that with adequate braille signage. So that is important for information and communication to be universally accessible. So there are road signages without accessible features. Sometimes the TV programs are not accessible. I mean, not with the subtitles or the text. So next you might be having this we are talking about digital world. We are talking about this making all the urban services accessible and also doable through online. But if someone who has vision impairment wants to simply pay the property tax or go for updating of the KYC online bank, so these facilities are to be there in the websites. Many organizations, many institutions do have this facility in the website, by which they can be made accessible to people who have vision impairment or some kind of a sensory impairment. But that is a barrier in the information and the communication category, so which needs to be taken care of. So to summarize, I mentioned about this act in the last lecture also, that is the RPWD Act 2016, which says that a barrier is any factor which includes communicational, cultural, economic, environmental, institutional, political, social, attitudinal or structural, which hampers the full and effective participation of persons with disabilities in the society. So this is a current, I would say, sort of a holistic definition of barrier that we use for coming up with the barrier free solutions. Now all these barriers lead to discrimination. There is some distinction made. Even whenever, remember one thing, that even whenever you are providing special provisions or facilities, you are kind of segregating. So there are exclusions, there are restrictions which lead to some kind of systematically nullifying the right to enjoy all fundamental human rights that others are enjoying in various aspects of life, be it physical, economic, social, cultural, political, anything. So what we understand is that barriers are leading to discrimination, and this had been, and the approach towards dealing with this problem of discrimination had been changing. Now we would try to understand, before we get into the technical details of inclusive planning and universal design, we would just take a brief look into the history of the subject, that how the approaches towards disability have been changing, how we have moved through various models. The first I would like to discuss about the medical model of disability, Now, this medical model of disability, the basis is that it looks into a person with some kind of disability as a patient. That is why it is called the medical model. Now, say the approach that has been taken by this medical model is that a person who might be having an amputee maybe, or a person who cannot see. So, they require some kind of care, treatment, therapy. So, in a word, some kind of normalization so that they can be fitted better to the environment. So, that is the approach which is being taken by the medical model. Now, next what happened? I mean, this was there for quite some time. So, gradually people who belong to the vulnerable group or people who were working for this, they started, protesting against this attitude, protesting against this approach. So, what they said that if I am not, I have a problem in movement, I use wheelchair. So, if I am not able to access a facility which is present in the first floor of the building, which does not have a lift, it is the faulty design of the building. It is the problem the building is having. It is not my problem. The problem is there. A problem is with the architect. The problem is with the designer of the building. The problem is with the environment. So, that came to be known as the social model of disability. That means which considered that the barrier is external to the person. It is not within the person, but barrier lies within the environment, and that is kind of what you can say the foundation stone of this inclusive planning and universal design, from where it started. With this approach it started, that the environment needs to be empowering, environment needs to be enabling to accommodate the diverse categories of users. So, that was the idea. Now, so if you try to understand the basic difference between the medical model and our social model, the first thing I said that the medical model considered the disability is in the person, problem is with the person, and the social model said that the problem is with the environment. Now, the medical model talked of normalization, that is as if the person with disability is abnormal and they need to be made normal, and by whatever means. And the social model said that they believed in empowering the person, creating an enabling environment so that a person is empowered. All are empowered to participate in the this environment. Then the medical model talked about fitting the man to the environment. The social model talked about fitting the environment to the man. So, these were the the basic differences. Now, so I think it shows that how you can differentiate between the two. So, also the medical model talked about that the person might need to, that there is a need for adaptation, that is the person might need to use some additional aids and appliances to perform better in the environment, but the social model said that there is no need for any adaptation, and the person should be able to perform all the necessary activities in the environment without any restriction. Okay, now another model was there, which came up, which was called the Nagy model. Now, Nagy model said that the barrier is contextual. Now, it gave an example, say a 12-year-old girl who is living in a society, maybe in a rural society, where she is not expected to go to school and pass exams and all, but supposed to stay at home and work and help with the household activities and all. Then, if the girl has some kind of a learning disability, then that is not considered as a barrier, because in that particular social context, maybe that is that is not expected. So, so a person is tagged as a person with disability if that is within that particular social context, if that trait or that character is not accepted. Say driving, if you go to the western countries, I think that's a basic life skill, but still in India, I mean, you might find many elderly people or elderly ladies, they do not drive. So probably that's not so much of a disempowering character in Indian context that would probably in a society which is more automobile dependent. So in an automobile dependent society, in that context, not knowing how to drive will make you disabled, will make you handicapped. So that is the context of Nagy model. Next, the International Classification of Impairment, Disability and Handicap. So this was something which was proposed by WHO way back in 1980s. So this had a medical bias. Now I would try to explain that what kind of medical bias it had. So ICIDH, International Classification of Impairment, Disability and Handicap. So let us try to define the terms. Impairment means loss or abnormality of any body part, malfunctioning of any body part, loss of a limb, abnormality of a limb, maybe one leg is shorter, or maybe non-functional organs. If someone has is working with one kidney, or if someone has some cardiac problem, that also limit mobility, that also limit any kind of movement. So that means any kind of non-functional of the system. So this kind of impairment would lead to disability. That means because of this problem in the organ, the person is not able to perform certain set of activities. Because a person does not have a leg, cannot climb the steps. That means is disabled or is not able to climb the steps, and as a result is not able to participate or enjoy the facilities which are in the upper floor of the building. So he gets handicapped. So what it means that because of the disease, some kind of a disease or disorder in the person is not able, is getting impaired and not able or disabled to perform a set of activities which are otherwise considered normal, and as a result is getting handicapped. So I hope you are getting the medical bias in it. So that was, and this was a WHO World Health Organization classification, a 3-tier framework which was proposed and which was later on heavily criticized. You can understand why it was criticized, the medical model and the social model. So then came the International Classification of Functioning. So what it said both the models are partially correct. It's not that you do not require appliances and aids and these things, and it's not that you do not require environment which is enabling, but what probably you need is a combination. So this was much inspired by the capability approach which is the human-centered framework by Nobel laureate economist Dr. Amartya Sen. Now here by commodity it was meant food, the environment, the personal characteristics. So what this model, this capability approach said that a person's well-being depends on his or her functioning or the activities they perform. Now that well-being is guided by, or rather enhanced by, a set of opportunities or a basket of commodities which are being provided to him or her. So which improve their capabilities. Now how do you relate it to the disability or what we are discussing here? Now disability has been defined in terms of capability or functioning, and any kind of denial or deprivation of the opportunities or the practical opportunities creates this disability. Now what are these practical opportunities? Now, these practical opportunities could be many. Let us see what are these practical opportunities. So, this actually focuses on what people can do, not just what is wrong. Here, I would like to introduce another term called the intersectionality of age, disability and gender. Now, what it means, say imagine a person who is who has mobility impairment. Okay, he is rich and can have a chauffeur driven car. So, the practical opportunities that he is enjoying is much more than the practical opportunities with the same disability or same impairment, but a poor person is enjoying. So, what do we mean? That if a combination of mobility impairment and poverty increases the problem, increases the hurdle. Similarly, a woman with disability sometimes might be more disadvantageous because of the social context, because of some kind of a gender bias. An aged person, now with age, I mean, you know that the sensory and the mobility problems will come. So, someone who might be having a mobility problem, with age that will increase only. So, that is called the intersectionality. When the I mean, how a person's different types of disabilities, they can work together to have a cumulative impact on the person. So, now the capability approach tries to actually distinguish between the potential disability and the actual disability. So, the actual disability are maybe the bodily problems of the person, which is defined by the medical model, and the potential disability is a capability deprivation, that if a person does not have a limb, he does not have a limb. So, that is an actual disability. Now, if a person without a limb does not have a elevator to go to the next floor, or does not have a proper card or proper accessible transportation system, then he is more disabled. So, this is the ICF model, which tries to explain between the interaction between the various components, that there are health conditions which are always there, then which are the disease and the disorders, there are the body functions and the participation, which together control the activities, and also there are the environmental factors and the personal factors which control the activities. So, this was what I was when we are talking about the practical opportunities or the basket of opportunities which enable a person or which constitute the capability set. What are these? The socio-cultural environment, that is the laws. If we have this RPWD Act we have, so that is a law, or we have the Accessible India campaign, Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan, that is a mandate which is given to the public buildings to be accessible. So, that is the socio-cultural environment. You have the resources and the commodities by which I mean say a metro railway makes the metro the station barrier free. So, that's a resource which is being provided, and also the personal capacity, that is the human capital, I mean their own character. So, all these they kind of increase the set of opportunities, and that give people choices, so that to improve their actual functioning, that is actual set of activities by which they can participate better. So, our goal is what? Our goal is that people should participate better, people should participate more, should participate independently. That means their functioning should be improved. So, it is not just improving, I mean making them better in making them more able, or just or giving some or making the environment more accessible, but it is a combination of everything. It might be a combination of the social factors also, helping people. If an elderly person is lost and cannot follow the wayfinding system, so I mean and if you have people to help me, I mean you see this help booths in many public places. So, everything together make that experience better. So, to summarize this, the philosophy behind the inclusive design. So, inclusive design places people at the heart of the design process. That is, it is a people-centric approach. It recognizes the diversities and the differences. It's not one size fits all. There is no average user. It identifies the barriers, it decodes the barriers which are applicable for different categories and aim to solve all. It offers choices. In the next lecture, we will be discussing more about in detail about the various principles of universal design, but to talk about just the philosophy here. Now, so this is the final definition. It's an approach, a philosophy and a guiding code that aims to provide a constructive and inclusive mindset to respond to the needs of the diverse population groups, and is free from any stigma or discrimination based on the basis of age, gender, ability or any other human attributes. There are many other definitions also, like the design of the products and the environments to be usable by all people, universe as a process that enables and empowers a diverse population by improving human performance, health and wellness. Now, my next questions, a short discussion that what is the level of access should you provide? Since you have now all gone through these different models, so how much should we do? Because you have to understand that how much we can practically do. So, there is one thing that is a reasonable accommodation. Say you look at this picture, I mean this is an auditorium where a space has been provided in the front row for a row of wheelchairs to be placed. A makeshift ramp has been made. Minor modifications and adjustment to make the environment useful. So, specific needs in the existing environment, that is called the reasonable accommodation, step 1. Step 2 is when you make the building visitable, that you make certain modifications. You add a proper permanent ramp, you have a furniture which is accessible for wheelchair, you install certain grab bars, you have a barrier free toilet. That means when you make it is usable by the people with a range of mobility needs. And the first one was very targeted, and this one, when a range of mobility, you make certain, not all, certain sections of the building when you make visitable. Step 3 is barrier free. When you follow proper design standards, give corridor of adequate width for wheelchairs to move, make a toilet where the wheelchair can turn, give proper staircases with tactile tiles and handrails and all. So, make it physically accessible to eliminate all kinds of tangible and physical barriers. That is the step 3 of the barrier free. And finally, inclusive design, when you have products which anybody can use. Think about this, a person with a able-bodied person can use it, or even a person who is cannot hold it, doesn't have proper grip, can use it. This is a door where a person with a cataract or blurred vision can see the contrast and can easily identify the door. This is a corridor in where these dark strips help the person to navigate, a person with low vision, not blind, low vision, to navigate properly. So, this is a lift which anybody can use. That is, I mean, absolutely universally designed. This is a toilet in where someone with a wheelchair can also use, and an elderly person also can use this place to sit and take a shower. So, that means when you consider all kinds of visible and non-invisible barriers and just try to accommodate that, that's called an universal design. So, why I wanted to discuss these 4 steps is that so that based on the requirement, based on the practical possibility, you all, I mean those who are architects and civil engineers would understand there are certain problems of actually implementing many wishful solutions. So, what you can reasonably do, you might have a budget constraint, you might have space constraint. So, within that, I mean when we discuss some good practices, we will be talking more about this, that how you can do some retrofitting solutions. So, we'll understand that. So just wanted to open the discussion that what should be that there are different levels of access which can be provided. Thank you.